Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside Furman Athletics. I am Dan Scott, the voice of the Paladins. As always, very happy to have you with us. Hope that you have had a good week so far, and we're doing this on Friday, so we hope that you've got a good weekend coming up. A lot of stuff going on in the world of sports. If you're just a sports fan in general, I mean, this is a great weekend in sports. Major League Baseball's opening day, opening weekend. The Masters, if you're a golf fan, there are a few in our area of the world, I'm sure. A lot of stuff going on, and here at Furman, no different. We still have all of our spring sports going on. And for our guest today, like it is in most of college athletics these days, there's really no break. It is a year-round thing for Alex Marinelli. Alex is maybe the newest of the new kids on the block here at Furman. He is the Assistant Director of Development. We'll tell you what that means here in just a minute, but joined the athletic department here on February the 28th, was his first official day as a Furman employee. And so we wanted to introduce him to the Furman fans. Some of you have already gotten a chance to meet Alex, but we are here on Inside Furman Athletics to introduce you to one another. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Dan. How are you?
I am good. We were just kind of joking a little bit before we got rolling here. You start officially on February the 28th, and then your first official event is the SoCon tournament up in Asheville. So no time to get acclimated. It's let's get rolling right off the bat.
We got rolling real quick, Dan, and I'll tell you what, that championship game on both sides, and it was awesome to see both of our men's women's programs both get to the final. Great showing for both, but at least on the men's side, an ending like that bonds you to a school pretty quickly, I will say.
Yeah, there's been a whole lot of bonding and a whole lot of talking about that one for sure, all across the country. As a matter of fact, another story perhaps for another time. Good to see you. Just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself before we even talk about the job for our Furman fans out there. What is there to know about Alex Marinelli?
Sure. So I was born and raised in a collegiate athletics department very similar to Furman University. My home was Marist College up in Poughkeepsie, New York. When I say born and raised there, I mean literally. When I was day of my birth, September 28th, 96, I was announced on the PA system at the football game, height, weight, the whole thing. And the reason for that was my father was a longtime athletic trainer up there. He started the athletic training program and was at the helm of it for 33 years. And so I was fortunate enough to kind of grow up, again, through Marist College, travel with the football program, travel with the basketball team, baseball team, all of that. And so it gave me a great insight into the college athletics landscape. Obviously, it was cool as a kid, but as I got older, into the 12, 13, 14, 15 age range, was still traveling, was fortunate enough to get an idea of the relationships that happened around an athletic department and some of the ongoings that happened behind the scenes. And so I think that gave me a great first step into my career now. And so that is my background. That's where I draw a lot of my life lessons from. And that area, as some of you may know, is very similar in landscape-wise, as we were just talking about, Dan, to Greenville and to the area down here. Got my mountains, right in here, and then got the beach not too far away. Like back home, we had the Jersey Shore. So it's all familiar to me, and it all feels like home.
Yeah, Bob Ritchie and I talk quite a bit because his kids are obviously always around his basketball program and on the road. They are out there macking, and they're all out there shooting baskets and doing things. And occasionally I'll just turn to Bob and say, they really have no idea how special this is, do they? Because to them, it's just second nature. Those basketball players are just, 13, 14, or 15 big brothers to them. You kind of, it sounds like you grew up in that same atmosphere.
Absolutely. And truthfully, I've had Furman on the radar really since 2018 for myself, but when I really started picking up the games and watching Furman basketball and Furman athletics consistently was basically the beginning of this basketball season. And one of the things that made it feel more even like home was Bob Ritchie's son on the bench. Made me feel like home, made me feel like myself, like I was watching myself back in the day. And that's the kind of atmosphere that I want to be a part of and the kind of family environment that I want to be a part of. So seeing that and seeing that culture here was big for me. And yes, and just like to Bob's kids, all those players on the teams are big brothers to them. And I know Aaron Wissing her kids as well. Look at Jalen Slauson and Alex Hunter and all those guys in the same light. And I remember my version of Jalen Slauson, Jared Jordan back in the day at Marist College, Will Whittington, Ryan Stilf, and all these guys who I still stay in touch with to this day. Those are my big brothers. Those are my role models growing up.
So was it kind of predestined then that you would, in some way, shape, or form, be involved in college athletics?
I think so. And truth be told, I was an athletic training undergraduate at Marist College, where I did my undergrad. And despite a great experience there with that program, decided that the athletic training route wasn't necessarily for myself like it was for my father, and basically took the piece of athletic training that I liked the most and then shaped it into my career now. And that piece itself was building relationships with people. In the athletic training setting, you're doing it more so on a student-athlete side, and it's still the same in my role now. I'm still building relationships with student-athletes, but I think it was my ability to build relationships and how much I cared about those relationships that led me into the development world. Because that's really what it is. It's about building relationships with people, connecting people to our athletic program. And I think that's where I draw my career now. So, yes.
In one sense, it almost has to be a calling, because I have done fundraising a lot over my life, and it can get to the point, if you're not careful, where somebody says, oh gosh, here comes the guy who wants money.
Right, correct.
Again. So it really does become about building relationships, and every time you talk to somebody, you're not shaking one hand and holding the other one out,
right,
asking for money. How long did it take you to kind of develop how to be in development, for lack of a better phrase?
Sure. And so I don't even, truthfully, I don't approach development in my work as development in itself. My goal and my job and what I do as a person is I just want to make someone feel so connected and so passionate about what we're doing here at Furman, what has happened, what is happening now, and what is going to happen, that they feel inclined to support it. And whether that's $50, $100, however much it may be, that's great. But my job is to make them feel connected. And I think, which we'll get into shortly here, I think that's the difference that Furman can provide versus some of our surrounding or some of our Power 5 peers. I think there's such an opportunity here to be connected to a program and to be part of a family as opposed to some other places.
Well, you have, in your short career, you said you were born in 96, and I almost fell over because my two children were born in 1990 and 1995.
Sure.
But again, another story for another time. But in your short career, you have seen college athletics from both ends of the spectrum, from Marist, but you come to Furman from Texas A&M.
Sure.
So you have seen what both sides of the street look like.
Sure. And so coming from a guy who initially was born and bred at Marist, stayed at Marist College for his undergraduate, and really spent my first 22 years of life in the same town, I'll say proud of the track record that I have now, or at least what I've seen and where I've been. So immediately after Marist, made a stop at Villanova for about a year, term position there. Great experience. COVID kind of ended that a little bit early, but I bumped into Jason Donnelly there, formed a great relationship with him, and that's kind of where this relationship began between him and I. But that gave me a great scope of how Villanova does business, which was obviously above the Marist College level, but not quite at the Texas A&M level. And then was fortunate enough to land a position at Texas A&M. Gave me a great scope of the Power 5 level and how that business is done and where they are really good and then some places where they lack, just like every level. And now being back at Furman, I feel like I am able to draw on my childhood and my foundation of being at Marist College while also taking pieces from a place like Villanova, a place like A&M, and bringing it all here. And trust me, there are great pieces of every level. It's just about bringing your own version of those pieces to wherever you are, and that's the goal here.
And that's what I was going to ask. How can something you experienced at Texas A&M at a Power 5 school where they almost print money, how can something that you experienced there translate into what you are doing here at Furman?
Truthfully, and this is me being blatantly honest with you, I look at what Texas A&M and what some of these other big-time schools don't do well and try to accentuate that here. So at a school like Texas A&M or any school of that size or that caliber, where I think they lack sometimes is the ability to be very connected to people, to be inclusive, to make people feel at home, to connect players and coaches and administrators to the fan base. And I think that, if they could accentuate that even more, then they would run the table and they'd be good to go. But I think at a place like this, you have such an opportunity to make a better connection with people that is my pitch point. If I were to run down the road here and run into a Clemson graduate, my pitch to them is not that we're going to break all the records and win the ACC and win a national championship every year, but it's that I can connect them and make them feel like more of a part of this program than they'll be able to feel at a Clemson or a Texas A&M. And truthfully, when I think about it and when I paint the picture to folks, I put it this way. The A&M of the world and the Clemson of the world is your local professional sports team. Truthfully, it actually fits this market well because we don't have necessarily a professional baseball team in Greenville or in the area here. And so that's the way I paint that picture versus a Furman is almost like your true, and it is, college sports team because you're able to make people feel more connected and like a part of the program.
All right, now, that's easy to say.
Sure.
Have you found it, I won't say easy to be able to make those connections, but have you found that approach to be effective?
I have so far, and the way, again, I paint it to people is, listen, when I go to a Boston Red Sox game back home, I'm a Sox fan, so today's our opening day, by the way.
My Reds did beat the Braves in the opener, by the way, yesterday.
So exactly. Anyway, we're all happy. It's all going well now. But when I paint the pictures, I say, listen, when I go to a Red Sox game, I got to pay $100 for tickets. I go in, I buy a $15 beer, $8 hot dog, and everything is very, we'll say, exclusive. There's no way I'm talking to any of the players on the field. I'm not talking to Alex Cora. Everything is very off limits, painted lines, or the whole thing. Here, you can buy a ticket for $15-20. Go sit 3 rows behind Coach Clay Hendricks down here, or you can go to Timmons Arena and sit 5 rows behind Bob Ritchie coaching. And if you see Bob Ritchie walking out of the arena, he'll have a conversation with you. If you see Clay Hendricks walking out of the stadium, he'll have a conversation with you. You go to Clemson, I'm sure Dabo's a great guy. I've never met the guy. Sure, he's awesome, but you don't have that kind of access. You don't have that kind of availability. Here, listen, this is a family. We call it Furman family for a reason. That's why I came here. I wouldn't come to a place I don't believe in. I wouldn't come to a place that doesn't feel like a family. And so when I can construe that to people, as a guy who has never been here before my interview in January, and then was never here again until my start date on February 28th, for me to already feel and know that this is a family, I mean, I'm a guy who's been here 5 weeks. What must it feel like to a person who has been here for 2 years or 5 years or 10 years? And so that's what I'm trying to help build, help continue to construe that culture and build that culture here.
What was the selling point that drew you here when you had that interview in January?
So truthfully, 2 things really. Number one, the people, and that's easy to say everywhere. But I actually had, an opportunity to interact with some of the people here prior to my arrival. Like I said, Jason Donnelly back at Villanova, rubbed elbows with him the back end of 2019, and just his energy, his pride for building something and creating something, and the way he went about business. He was meeting me as a total stranger and put me in touch with Aaron Wissing, who is the executive director of development here now. And just his willingness to do so and kindness through that, I was blown away by. And then once he put me in touch with Aaron Wissing, the relationship that Aaron and I developed through the years was unbelievable. As a new guy in the industry, someone who she didn't have to give the time of day to, gave me all the time in the world, checked up on me. I would ask her a question about, the business, the industry, talk shop, and she was always very open to it. And so the people right away started to, hit home with me, and I appreciated that. But the second and maybe the most important piece is that I wanted to go somewhere and have the opportunity to help build something. When I was at A&M, it's a great place. It's an awesome place. Some would say that it is their version of perfect, and very few things, at least from the exterior, go wrong at A&M. It looks like a pretty well-oiled machine. Here, there is room to build. There are things we need to improve on. You know that, I know that, everyone knows that. And that's all part of the process here. And that is what I fell in love with about the idea of Furman, is I was going to come here, be able to help you, help JD, help this community, help Aaron, help everybody, all of our head coaches, all of our student athletes, build this place into something special. And you have seen it be special many a times before. And the question is just how often can we make it be as special as can be? And I think here, beyond a lot of other places, has more opportunity than anywhere else.
At Texas A&M, is it you said it's kind of a well-oiled machine, and you use the word almost, or the phrase almost perfect. Is it that way, or is it a situation that this is the way we've always done it? We don't have to do anything different because, as I said, they can almost print money there, and with the Power 5 advantage they have, and the national television contracts and everything else, is it a situation where they just don't have to be as creative to make it as special as perhaps you have to work at a school like Furman?
Sure, and so I think the difference for them is they all still work very hard. I've got colleagues there who work their tails off to make it the place it is. And I know Ross Bjork, the AD over there, works very hard to keep A&M at the level it is, and it's not easy by any stretch of the imagination. But the difference that I point to is that A&M is able to make a mistake. They have financial backing in order to try something, have it not work out perfectly or have it not work out well, and still be okay. At Furman or at Marist or at places of the like, if you commit to something and are going to make an expense or spend some money there to try something, you better hope it hits.
Right.
Because otherwise you're going to be back up against the wall. And that's the thing here is you have to be more precise, more intentional with your actions and your words and your commitments. And I think that's the challenge here is how can you refine what you're doing and be creative while working at the level that we're at? And if you're able to succeed in that sense and you're able to do well with that, that's when you're able to elevate, and eventually take some more risks because you have some more backing.
Alex Marinelli, the Assistant Director of Development here at Furman, our guest on this week's episode of Inside Furman Athletics. All right, so you've been here 5 weeks. Things have calmed down a little bit since you jumped in feet first at the SoCon tournament. What does the job actually entail for you as the Assistant Director of Development here at Furman? From a day-to-day standpoint, what are you doing?
Sure. So I am on the front lines servicing our donors, getting to know our donors, making them feel more connected like we discussed. But really the way Aaron Wissing, our Executive Director of Development, have outlined my position is I am here to reach out and listen to some of the folks that we have not listened to in years past. And not because we didn't want to, but strictly based on bandwidth. We've had a 3-person athletic development shop here, I don't know, at least since Aaron has gotten here. And adding a 4th person, adding myself, allows us to do just that. It allows us to be more of a better listener, we'll say. It allows us to get out in the community more. And by us, I mean myself. I mean we. But that's exactly it. It's showing people appreciation who we haven't been able to necessarily show appreciation to in the past. So folks who have supported Furman Athletics for many years and all of our programs, it's about getting to them now and saying, hey, listen, thank you. We have the bandwidth to go out and now thank you. And we want to hear what you have in mind. Do you have an idea or a thought or an opinion on something? We want to hear it. I certainly want to hear it because I'm, again, learning on the fly here. And that's the part of it, I think, for myself that's awesome, is all this conversation for myself is genuine. I need to learn. I want to learn. I want to hear what people think. I want to hear opinions. And so whoever is listening to this, if you've got an opinion, if you've got a thought, give me a call. I'm on the directory. I'd love to hear what everyone has to say, to be honest.
Does that mean that you have to have a bit of a thick skin, especially if you're trying to get to people that might have felt a little bit forgotten in the past?
Absolutely, and that's all part of it. And trust me, I understand that. Again, understanding a smaller school or a more mid-major level school, as much as I blur the lines of Power 5 and mid-major and the whole thing. But for sure, and I understand that people at times may have felt neglected, just like they did at Marist, just like they feel everywhere. Truthfully, there's always a level of that. But it's about giving someone the opportunity to voice their opinion, to be heard, and then to respond appropriately. Let them know that they're heard. Let them know it's appreciated. And it's incredible the amount of folks that I have reached out to so far in my first 5 weeks here that just appreciate, a phone call or being heard. And that's my goal here, is to make people feel appreciated. And again, like we discussed, make them feel like a part of the Furman family, because they are part of the Furman family.
So what's been the initial response as you have reached out to some of these people?
It's just that. It's, wow, I'm thrilled to be hearing from someone in the athletic department. We're longtime supporters, and we believe in this here. And it's great to hear from somebody who actually cares. And we think it's a welcome change and an exciting change. And again, I think more people out there believe in the trajectory of Furman, what Furman stands for, and where we're taking this whole thing, then most folks would believe. I mean, to be honest, I don't know of a ton of people in my hometown who know of Furman University. But if you were to come here and talk to the people around here, they believe it. And then once you are here and once you see it firsthand, those folks who previously didn't know about Furman, they believe it too. And so it's about getting that message out.
Visiting with Alex Marinelli, Assistant Director of Development here at Furman. Brand new on the job, been here as we do this edition of Inside Furman Athletics for about 5 weeks or so. So barely time to really get indoctrinated, but as we mentioned, hit the ground running, started right at the Southern Conference tournament, and really no slowing down since. What are immediate goals? What are there some immediate things that you're hoping to accomplish? And I'm not necessarily talking about dollar signs, although if you have some of those you want to share, that's fine as well. But what are some immediate goals that you've got set?
Sure, and I'll be honest with you, dollar signs and metrics and statistics, they're all great, and obviously they're good benchmarks to set as goals. My initial goal, and this is always, I've been through a few interviews in my life in terms of like job interviews, right? And the trick question that people throw out there is like, oh, what do you see in your first 2-3 months here? What do you want to accomplish? Similar to this question. And I know a lot of people would say, I want to raise $1 million, or I want to, go to this many games, or I want to meet this many people. That's all great. What I want to do and what I focus on is becoming a part of the fabric and learning from the people who are here. So whether it's our fan base, whether it's our current administrators, whether it's yourself, Dan, whoever it is, I want to be a sponge and soak up all the information as I can. I want to be able to walk and jog before I try to sprint. And so that is my first goal. And I actually had to set out some goals with Aaron, Daniel Ray, and myself recently. And number one on my list was get to know everybody in our athletic department by the end of the year. Whether it's a grad assistant, whether it's a staff athletic trainer, whether it is our faculty academics rep with the athletic department, whoever it is, I want to meet all those people. That way when I go out to our donor base and tell people, like, hey, this place is special, I know it, I can speak to every single person in the department. And so for myself, that is the first and foremost goal, and then it also rolls over into our donor base. I want to be familiar with everybody, and I mean this wholeheartedly, everybody who has given $1 to Furman Athletics, because I'm a young guy. I know how much money means, especially at this point in my life. It's not like I'm swimming in money over here. So I understand when people are willing to give any form of dollar to Furman Athletics to support it, I know that means a lot. It's not about how big it is. It's giving, period. If you're able to support like that, I know you care, and therefore I want to show you how much we appreciate that person caring.
So how do your personal goals and that mindset, which, by the way, I personally believe that's a great way to approach things, how does that jive with what the university and the athletic department, specifically Jason Donnelly, Aaron Wissing, what their immediate goals and their immediate vision for your position and for the athletic department as a whole, how do those two things work together?
Well, I think that's the foundation of everything we're trying to do here in the athletic department, whether it's JD, Aaron, all the way down to our GAs, and again, anybody who is relatively or remotely involved with our athletic department, is it's about making people feel like a part of the family. We were at a Advantage Greenville event this morning, and Bob Ritchie was talking about identity and about culture. And that's, I think, the beginning point and the end point, is you can't build a great athletic department or a great athletic program without a great culture, without people who care about each other, without people who want to listen to each other and get to know each other. And I think that's the value that JD brings to this athletic program, is he's very intentional about his relationships. He cares about people. Listen, he's a busy guy. He's got a lot of things on his plate. But if you ever had the moment to sit down with Jason Donnelly or Aaron Wissing or any of them to have a full conversation, you would be able to tell that those people care about the people of Greenville, the people of Furman University, every single person who is in this stadium. Those things are construed through the conversations you have with them. And truthfully, again, that's why I'm here. I believe in that model. I believe in that kind of person. And I think that's why my values fit so well here with Furman University as a whole, Furman Athletics, and then with everybody within it.
And then when everything is said and done, after you've gotten yourself acclimated and you do all that, all you have to do is produce, right? The bottom line is always the bottom line when you get right down to it.
And truthfully, and that's the reality of it, and that's the reality of development and fundraising.
We do live in a reality-driven world.
No doubt.
Most of the time.
No doubt. And it's funny because those will measure up to one another, though. If I'm able to make people feel that way.
It's funny how that works.
Exactly. And that's why, like, people view development and fundraising sometimes as like a very salesman-based job, which, fine, I get it, deals with money, deals with the exchange of goods, whatever. But I truthfully think it's an honest work, because if I'm building a relation with somebody and therefore gaining their trust, then they should be in a position or have a thought process of wanting to do that. Trust me, when I have felt that way from others, I want to give, I want to support, and I'm no different from anybody I'm dealing with. So,
good stuff. All right, as we get set to wrap it up, how can people get in touch with you? What's the best way for maybe someone you talked about trying to reach out to people who've been engaged with the athletic department over the years, but maybe they haven't heard from somebody in a while. So how do they get in touch with you and say, hey, I want to talk to somebody?
Sure. So if you go right to FurmanPaladins.com, our staff directory on the Inside Athletics page, Alex Marinelli, I'll be under Furman Athletics Fund. We have our own Furman Athletics Fund page. Reach out to me there. I'm all over social media. I'll give you my social media after this so that you can include it in the link here. But however it is, I'd love for you to reach out to me, whether it's via email. It's alex.marinelli5@furman.edu. Email, phone call, tweet at me, message me, whatever it is. I'd love to talk to people. I'd love to hear what people think. And I'd love to construe the idea that, we care about people and that I believe in this place. And trust me, this is the last thing I'll leave you with, Dan, is that I don't work for a place I don't believe in. And I believe in Furman more than anywhere, more than the Gonzagas and North Carolinas and the Dukes and all these different schools. And, I don't really have a desire to go back to, an A&M. I truthfully believe that I belong here. I truthfully believe in Furman University and Furman Athletics above all else, and I'm here to stay.
Good stuff. Alex Marinelli, our Assistant Director of Development. One thing I want to draw your attention to as we get set to wrap it up, you see scrolling on the bottom of your screen the same thing that was scrolling on last week's edition. I left it there on purpose. We visited with Tom LeGrand last week, who is the driving force behind trying to, speaking of development and raise money for the long-term care for a just wonderful former Furman Paladin, dominant defensive lineman here on the 88 National Championship team as a true freshman of all things. Alan Edwards, who had that debilitating stroke a number of years ago, is going to require long-term care for the rest of his life, and they're trying to raise $300,000 to make sure that for the next decade plus his living arrangements and those type of things are taken care of. I left that on the screen so you can still make those donations, and you can see the address there. It's the Alan Edwards Fund, 200 Covington Road in Greenville, 29617. It's one of our own here at Furman who gave us so many thrilling moments on the field, was such a wonderful man off the field, still is, but was such a contributor to not just Furman, but to the community off the field after his playing days were over, and now he needs our help. So just keep that in mind. The Alan Edwards Fund, 200 Covington Road, Greenville, 29617, as they are still working to try and make sure that his long-term care is provided for. Alex, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan. I really appreciate being here.
That is Alex Marinelli, the Assistant Director of Development here at Furman, and we appreciate him taking some time and being with us here today on this week's edition of Inside Furman Athletics. We'll be back with you again next week with another edition of IFA, plus got a couple of new things coming at you. We're going to start doing some previews for our softball and women's lacrosse program, some weekly previews for them that should debut next week as well. We'll have those lined up for you coming up. Be on the lookout for them on our Furman social media. Until then, for Alex and all of us at Furman, as always, I'm Dan Scott, saying God bless you and so long, everybody.